Hey folks, I am live with Lauren Witzke. We just had the shortest little chat, but we've actually never spoken before, except for me just pounding you on Instagram, just messaging you constantly to get you to come on my channel. And I finally did it. I did it here with Lauren Witzke. For those of you that are not familiar with her, could you just give us a little summary of your past political involvement? I think that's probably a good place to start.
Okay, yeah, for sure. So I ran for United States Senate in the state of Delaware. That was my first real political involvement. I worked for the Trump campaign prior to that. I was actually fired from the Trump campaign for being too conservative or being a hardliner on immigration, which I still am to this day. It's funny how it's become such a controversial issue to talk about immigration.
I know, right? Yeah.
Supporting illegal aliens. It's like, oh my gosh, that's like just so controversial now. And it's just funny to see how society has changed. But I have not. I ran on an immigration moratorium in 2020. My first run for United States Senate, I was in Delaware. Joe Biden was on the top of my ticket. So it was always a long shot, but it was quite an experience. It was great. It was white pilling in a way because we broke the Delaware record for most GOP Senate candidate votes in Delaware history by 50,000 votes. It's a lot of votes. And, we were able to pull out a whole new base of people that have been disenfranchised and left behind by the establishment and motivate them to come out and vote. So that was really my first experience. That was my first deep dive into politics. It was quite an experience. You learn a lot. It was a lot of fun. And, maybe I'll run again. We'll see. I'm not really sure what's next. But as of right now, I launched a media company. I watched as media it's controlled. It controls everything. They control the narrative. They control legislation, opinions, policies. And I got frustrated with the people in charge and I decided to build something better. So we started a Christian media company. You met my partner when he was helping me with the IT stuff, Edward Zaw. We started this company. We produce a lot of shows. We're really taking back the narrative on things. We produce shows like the Stu Peters Show, the Dr. Jane Ruby Show, Crosstalk News. And we've had a lot of fun. We've had a lot of success, and we're just getting started. So
that's great to hear that you shifted your focus in preparation for this interview. I watched a lot of interviews that you had done in the 2020 era. And I was wondering, you are a very positive presence in American politics. Do you feel like since the election, like your perception has changed in terms of your positivity, your being white pilled?
Yeah. So after the election steal was completed, I think I share the same feelings that millions of other Americans felt. They succeeded in stealing an election. It was like an overthrow of our nation is what we literally witnessed. And it was super blackpilling. There was also, I remember when I was campaigning and I watched as they tore down Caesar Rodney's statue. I went to protest it, but he was the man who signed the Declaration of Independence. He was, one of our founding fathers, one of the big leaders in American history. And I watched as these heathens chanted and pulled it down. And I remember saying to myself, it was the most discouraging day ever for me when I was like, wow, America is done. Like we're allowing this to happen. America is done. Then the steal completed. I was super blackpilled. I was like, oh my God, like Joe Biden's president. We have an openly hostile government. Then they put me on the domestic terrorist watch list. And
what?
Down my bank accounts. It was like brutal, hit after hit after hit. I did get blackpilled for a while. I did have a lot of hope. Now I see what our country is descending into, but I'm really concerned. It's not like I'm blackpilled. I'm super concerned. It's super concerning that Joe Biden is polling at almost an 80% disapproval rating, and they aren't changing course. It goes to show that they don't care what we think. The people in charge, because we know it's not Joe Biden who's in charge of the country. He has handlers who are managing this country, do not care what the American people think. They're not looking to, they've already mastered the art of stealing an election. We saw that in 2020. It had never been really done before on that level, and they succeeded. And they succeeded by taking over the media. The media would name you a quack if you even mentioned the fact that they rolled suitcases out,
Oh, right, right.
in Georgia, that kind of thing. They try to tell us, oh, that's the way it's supposed to be. And for a while there, it was looking pretty dark. It
Yeah.
was looking really dark. But I am encouraged because what I'm seeing now is people who otherwise would not have gotten involved, people who were timid or didn't want to say things like anti-white racism or, things that really would have helped us push the window, are now walking in boldness because they're seeing the blatant evil of the other side and how much they actually hate us. And it's gotten to the point where we're starting to realize those people will never they'll never vote for us. Those leftist, libtard, tranny freaks will never vote for us. You can't negotiate with these
You
people.
can't negotiate with them. That's such an important concept. And I love this concept of walking in boldness. I'm gonna start using that. But do you still believe that we can save America through conventional means? Because I just have this feeling like, well, voting doesn't matter. We should shift our focus to moving the Overton window because the stuff we're saying, just the way we're talking conversationally, even saying things like libtards, this is the way everybody talked when I don't know how old you are, but I'm 34. People just said whatever they wanted when I was in high school. And I mean, it wasn't that long ago. It's just amazing how much things have changed. And even 3, 4, 5 decades ago, what we believed was basically a centrist philosophy.
Yeah. Yeah. And we compromised with a centrist philosophy. And
We
when we
did.
were in charge, we didn't harness our political power in order to crush our enemies. That mentality has changed, especially this year.
Yes.
So, they're literally chemically castrating children. They're
I know.
indoctrinating children in schools. They're fighting for post-birth abortion. Oh, it's not even abortion at that point. It's murder, like inhumanity. We're seeing everywhere. And we're starting to realize, man, maybe I shouldn't have compromised on that. Maybe I shouldn't have
Exactly.
with that. I know that they have mastered the art of stealing a presidential election, and they did it with the help of the media and everything else. However, locally, people are getting involved. Local elections. We have friends out in Idaho who took over their entire Republican local committee and hijacked the whole thing.
In
And,
North Idaho?
huh?
In North Idaho?
I guess so. Yeah,
Oh,
it's like the AF crew out there. I know it's like Vincent James and all them. They
that's where
literally
I live. Yep.
yeah, yeah, and they literally took over the Republican committees, harnessed all that money to actually weaponize politics in a way that was effective
Mhm.
and win locally. It starts with your local school board. It starts, I know federal elections matter because of the budget. We would get funding for a border wall if we have people that are actually, support it, that kind of thing. It matters. But locally, you can make changes. And I realized how important local state politics are. Your governor, it's super important, and you can crush a rhino governor, in a primary if you motivate your base out to vote. But the issue is you have to get people who are already on the fence about you or supportive of you motivated out to vote. We're not going to get any leftist vote. Get that out of your head. We have
Mhm.
made so many compromises trying to accommodate and, well, they'll never vote for us. If we say this, no, you need to motivate your
Right.
Christian base, your white working class base, give them a reason to show up and vote for you, and they will. And
Mhm.
that is the mentality that has shifted, and I'm seeing it shift and I'm seeing it work. So we're able to primary people out on a local level by motivating a church to come out and vote for a school board member. Virginia was really encouraging. They recently, they locally, they completely took over their local school board. There's 3 of them. They got them elected. They worked really hard to get 3 school board officials elected. They changed the name back to they had changed the name of the school from Robert E. Lee to some George Floyd. I don't know, something they voted on. And they immediately, the first thing they did was change it back to the Robert E. Lee school. It matters. We are winning. We are taking back ground. Oklahoma just signed one of the strictest abortion bills into law that, will basically ban it from its state. Because it's not like they're worried about losing votes. They're realizing that the other side is evil and you can't compromise with it, and they deserve to be crushed. And that mentality is very encouraging because
Right.
nothing is worse than the Christian army rising up. Like that scares the crap out of them. And it should,
Oh, yeah.
because, now we're realizing, hey, we're not just fighting these daggum Democrats and libtards. We are fighting pure evil, and you can't
That's
negotiate
true,
with
that's true.
evil.
But I hate this concept of converting the normie. At this point, it's like after COVID and everything that's happened, these people are lost to us, and we need to focus on our base. So I understand where you're coming from. My issue with this my resistance to this local politics thing, is that no matter what we do, I still feel like we will be at the behest of a corrupt federal government. And so at this point, I'm like, outside of balkanization, I just don't really know that I see that much of a path forward. Although, a lot of people like you and a lot of my friends out here in North Idaho are feeling very good about converting local politics to conservatism, like across the board.
Yeah. See, balkanization, I have been hearing about that, a local civil war. We need to separate completely. That's never going to happen. Once you get that in your head, that's never going to happen, because Biden will bring in the UN, and that is what has happened, and they will kill us all. They're never going to allow that to happen.
I know you're right, but our federal government is just so corrupt. And
I
what
know.
if we take all of this ground on a local level, and then they just take it back? They just take it back.
Yeah. Well, it starts small. We
Mhm.
tried to take it back nationally, and we failed. They
Yeah.
just stole it. They blatantly stole it, and then they called us crazy and threw us on lists for fighting against it. So, I'm all about taking back territory, but the way forward, Andrew Torba and Gab has done a really good job of that, building a parallel society, a society outside of the corrupt current society that the federal government does control or have a say in, or the bankers control. Those bankers, real problem. But
What do you mean, Lauren? Please elaborate on
you know
that.
what I mean. But so like having your own payment processors. I never was on like PayPal. I never really used PayPal, or I actually don't even use Uber or anything like that, because I knew it would eventually get taken away from me. So
Yep.
I was like, I'm not even going to get used to using this and leaning on this, because I know that I'm definitely going to get banned from it. They're going to put me on a list where I'm like a terrorist and can't even bank. They shut down my bank accounts. I can't even bank at Wells Fargo anymore. So I found a local bank that is, they're ran by conservatives. They're not ever going to shut me down.
Mhm.
They even call me when they're like, hey, we're getting some questions about, like, they watch my deposits. Like, the federal government is watching my deposits into my bank account. And so when they're like harassing my bank about it, so my bank will call me and she'll be like, listen, girl, like they're doing this. And I'm like, okay, great. Thanks for letting me know. They won't shut me down. So it's finding your people and operating in your people. So, like, yeah, it's scary, but it's real, and you have to prepare. You have to build a parallel society. You have to build alternatives outside of the norm. I started gardening because they're talking about food shortages. I don't really know if this is like sensationalist hype or whatever, but it is looking like, when the baby formula shortage, like
Oh, yeah,
that
yeah.
was like, okay, like babies are gonna starve, and they're telling you on the news to call your doctor. Like, I was like, this is very bizarre. So yeah, building a parallel society, alternatives is very important as well. Shutting the TV off too. Like, the world isn't that bad if you're not sitting there consumed by it.
Mhm.
Um, have a source that you get your news from, a reliable source where you can get, the absolute truth that turn it on, see if you have a question like, hey, okay, this is going on here, and then turn it off and spend time with your families. The smallest form of government is your family. And if your
That's
house is not
true,
in
that's true.
order, yeah, it is. And if your house is not in order, how do you expect to change the world? I know you just had a baby. Very
2
cute.
years ago, not
Okay.
that recent.
Well, precious, precious. You look fantastic, by the
Oh,
way.
thank you so
So,
much.
and you get that, like, now you are managing a small government, within your
Mhm.
home.
An unruly government that is pooping in the bath, yes.
A rebellious and unruly government. Yeah, but you realize how important, like, having your house in order before you
Mhm.
take action outside of that, how important that is.
That's definitely true. In terms of American institutions, outside of getting into local politics, how can we deal with this loss of confidence in these institutions from the election theft? And for me, it was the lack of prosecution for the myriad violations of the Clinton campaign and the FISA violations. I was still in this place mentally where I was like, there will be justice, because I still have faith in the justice system. Like, if it's not going to be the other branches, I was like, the judicial branch is gonna clearly take care of business. But I have been just so disappointed. Even Kavanaugh has been a major disappointment. How can we instill trust in these institutions that continuously fail us?
You can't trust them.
Uh,
I hate to be like, but
no,
here's the
I
deal
understand.
also,
Yeah,
like, look at what happened with Derek Chauvin.
yeah.
Okay, so autopsy report came back that George Floyd had died of an overdose. He was using the exact same methods that he was taught to restrain him, the knee on the back of the, shoulder. But you know what? The media decided the justice system, like made the decision for the justice system with that. The public narrative and public opinion matters more now than justice. And once you accept that reality, it's a fact, because you can waive your pocket constitution or or share the law and the rules. They don't care.
Right.
So it's we have to be careful. That's the fact of the matter. You can't trust it. You can't, because it is rigged against you and it hates you.
Oh, I
And
totally agree. But
yeah.
can we have a functional society and a functional government without faith in institutions?
Do you currently think we have a functional government right now?
No.
Exactly. That's
Yeah.
the answer to your question. However, with that being said, I don't think all is lost, because we have been emboldened, because we've like ignited a fighting spirit that like we realize like this is the beginning of the end unless we do something.
Mhm.
We're full speed ahead to collapse, giving $40 billion that we don't have to
To
Ukraine
Ukraine.
to wage a world war. Yeah, and while we can't afford to even fill up our gas tanks to get to work, or you're spending thousands and thousands of dollars at the grocery store, or it's just completely, they no longer represent us. Yes, our government no longer represents us. So what's next? You have to be careful, because they will come for you. They'll look for excuses to come for you. People attended a rally. People like Nicholas Fuentes didn't even go into the Capitol building, was further away than I was, and got put on a no-fly list. They aren't playing by any rules.
Mhm.
There are no rules. It's just crush your opponents. And we need to adopt that same mentality.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yes. We will not get down in the dirt with them, and I do not understand this. Everybody's going to die with their principles. I would rather compromise in some ways on that level and use some Alinskyite tactics to beat them, and then we can build something that's a little more fortified morally. But, like, we have got to do some of the stuff that they're doing to us, or we're never going to win,
Yes.
especially in the media. Man, they have dragged my name through the mud. I know that they've dragged your name through the mud too. How have you dealt with being smeared by the media?
So I just hit them right back now. We created a big platform ourselves, and we uh, smash them like they smash us. They blatantly calling me a white nationalist now. So I just call them out for the satanic pedophiles that they are.
Right.
And they're used to us cowering and being like, oh my gosh, I'm not a white nationalist. Like, why are they saying these horrible things about me? Like, why? Like, I'm not these things. I'm not racist. Blah, blah. You know what? These people have like, I'm pretty sure they're eating kids. Like, I'm pretty sure that they're eating kids. And,
Yeah, really.
like you were talking about Hillary Clinton and stuff. That woman eats kids. I'm telling you. I'm telling you. And when you call them out for the satanic baby eaters that they are, they kind of knock it off.
Yeah.
When they realize that you're not going to back down, apologize, and they have no say. Like, their opinions about us don't matter anymore.
Right.
That's a good mentality that we have adopted, and we didn't have that before.
Mhm.
And yeah, I know there was no justice for Hillary Clinton. Yeah, I know there was no justice for the Russian collusion hoax, and it's demoralizing. We're looking at, Project Veritas, for example. They caught so many people doing so many illegal.
Yeah, and nobody cares.
Exactly. And it's like nobody cares. And that is the biggest thing, is like, yeah, like you have a passion for justice. You obviously have a heart for justice, and you're black pilled because you're watching as no justice is served. And it's instead retaliated in a way where we're getting punished for things that, noticing things that they are doing. And I get that. But I don't want, like, if we give up, if we roll over and die, like, I really feel like we're going to have some wins this year. We're going to have some wins this year, but we need to hold these people accountable when we win, to crush our political enemies, because they are not showing us any grace. We need to remember, we cannot forget what they have done. We cannot forget everything they stole from us. We cannot forget the way they blatantly went after children. Especially the LGBTQ lobby, like they're a mafia, and you have to treat mafias like what they are. You can't
Oh, I
negotiate.
totally
You
agree.
can't. They try to act all sensitive, like, like I just want to like get married and like live my life, and you guys are so mean to me. Why do you hate gay? Listen, I know your agenda. We saw it. You said nothing as they were
Right,
coming for
right.
little children, like even the
Mhm.
log cabin Republicans. Like, oh, what a joke. Purge, we need to purge society of the log cabin Republicans. Like, they need to go back to the Democrat Party. Blair White and her transgender dress, and it's so gross. But that's also what we need to do too. We need to clean our own house, and when we win, crush our enemies because they did not show us the same grace.
Oh, we have to be, merciless in retaliation. I think
Yes.
that's a very important thing to remember. And, as far as these rhinos and everything go, I agree with you, but it's also this insipid constitutional conservatives, a group of which I used to be a part. But the Constitution has failed to protect us from this cultural degradation. So in future, we are going to have to erect something that is stronger. And I don't know what that looks like right now, and that maybe that's what I'm grappling with, like, what is the future going to look like? But if we are able to regain the cultural narrative, able to erect some kind of governmental structure that is different, that will allow us to be fruitful culturally, are we going to reinstitute this constitution? I mean, what does that look like to you?
Well, actually, they've tried to have a couple constitutional conventions with them in charge to kind of rewrite and rephrase the United States Constitution. And it's very dangerous. It's very dangerous. But also, we've elected people like Ilhan Omar, people who have come into our country, migrants who are coming into our country in mass, don't give a crap about the United States Constitution. They get elected, they continue to crap all over it.
That's
Um,
true, but she's right about some stuff.
Elon, yes, some stuff about the bankers,
I know it's
specifically the
so weird. The
bankers.
the left has gone so far that I listen to Elon. I listen to her talk sometimes, and I'm like, huh. How about that? A really
Yeah,
horseshoeing on this. Yeah.
yes, and she's not, and they're not always all wrong. But you know what? Uh, they're not always wrong. But the fact of the matter is, they don't care about the United States Constitution.
Yeah.
Sometimes their hate for other things, and the things that they know, and that kind of stuff. That comes through. We had AOC last week calling for an end to foreign aid for Israel. I support all foreign aid being ended.
Oh,
So
yeah,
that's
yeah.
something I can actually get behind. I don't agree with any of her stuff, especially about transgender children. She's a big advocate of transgender children and chemical castrations and puberty blockers, and you're beautiful and wonderful. You know, I do not support any of that. She was right about one thing. We got to stop giving so much foreign aid to foreign countries.
And
And
that's a big thing. We're financially insolvent. What business do we have trying to prop up international governments that are clearly dysfunctional or never going to be able to stand? It's insane to me. I mean, we have major domestic problems that need to be dealt with.
they
Um,
don't care. They don't care.
they don't care.
Like I
Yeah,
said,
exactly.
Joe Biden
Um,
has a disapproval rating of almost 80%. They don't care. They're destroying our country, and they do not care. I'm really curious, like, who's in charge? Like, do you ever wonder, like, who is making these decisions? Because it's not Joe
It's
Biden.
not Joe Biden. Yeah, everybody has this vitriolic hatred of Joe Biden, and I just feel like this is just this old man that's crapping his pants. Like he's not really doing anything. I don't think it's Kamala because she can barely string a sentence together. Um, I don't know. I mean, I would imagine it's upper level swamp creatures and bankers and mega corporations that all have their hand in the cookie jar a little bit.
Yeah,
But we're never really going to find out. It's Klaus
yeah,
Schwab. It's all Klaus Schwab.
yeah. It's George Soros.
It's George Soros.
Yeah. I feel like
So
we have these giant boogeyman's. But the
yeah,
thing
yeah.
about it is, it's a whole network.
It's a
Global
network, yeah.
network. They all
Yep.
talk to each other. They're all
Mhm.
in on it, and they hate a sovereign America.
They
So
do,
what we're
and they
right.
all were on Epstein's plane too. That's
How about that?
yeah.
It's very funny. Yeah,
I
I
know.
mean, and they
Another
probably
thing that nobody cared about. It's like this major bombshell, and people are like, fine,
yeah,
it's whatever."
nobody cared. But you know why? Also, media didn't really cover it either. You
That's
know what
true.
I'm saying?
That's
Because
true.
they knew, like, and it's they didn't the Ghislaine Maxwell trials weren't really public. They weren't pushed out. Like this was the biggest trial probably in United States history. The mistress of a global pedophile ring was on trial and nobody cared.
Nobody cared, I know, and nobody even really saw her. It kind of led me to get pretty conspiratorial. I'm like, "Is she on some island with Epstein right now? How is Mossad related to this? Her connection to Mossad or what?" Like, I got so tinfoily. I'm like, "Is this trial even happening?"
Yeah.
Because they're not giving us any real information, and so it's so easy to develop your own postmodernism where you're like, "Is anything true? I have to find my own truth." On that note, I did wanna talk a little bit about, Christianity. I've heard you say a few times that we didn't have so much taken from us, as we gave it away, and I think that that is such an important switch in mentality because, on the right, I do hear a lot of this victim mentality, like they've taken everything from us, but we gave that up piecemeal through our attempts, our continuous attempts to compromise. And that's such an important point that you made. As soon as we see, like, they didn't take it, we allowed them to take it. We gave it to them.
Yeah.
I think that we can understand ourselves better and how to prevent this in the future. We can understand our enemy. And what is the role? I know you're Orthodox, I'm Catholic. What is the role of Christianity in regaining the cultural narrative? I think that there is this element of truth in all of us finding the heart of truth. Can we do that as a secular society?
Well, I think as a Christian, you're a Christian too, you understand. Remember when they were saying that gay marriage was a slippery slope and a lot of they got called crazy.
Yeah,
I think we see a lot of vindicated Christians. I
totally. I was like, Rick Santorum is such a retard, and now I'm like, he was
Yeah.
right about
And I want to
everything.
encourage other Christians to take that vindication and
Mhm.
that feeling you have of being vindicated. You were right. You
Yeah,
were right all along. They called you crazy, but look where we are now.
yeah,
And yes, we gave it away. We made compromises. And the thing about the enemy, thing about Satan, is that he's very cunning. He doesn't just come in and take over the whole thing. You give him inches and then he ends up taking the whole thing by the end. You know, even with compromises with like like just marriage. Like that was the most basic one. They went after the smallest form of government, the institution of marriage, the foundation of our nation. And nobody thought it was going to be a big deal. Everybody was like, okay, they're just going to get married, they're going to live their lives. No. Then it became, oh, now we're going to have parades. Oh, now you have to bake the cake. Oh no, now you have to wax my balls. And then it's like, oh no, guess what? Now we're coming for your kids. And
right, right.
if you oppose this, then we will destroy you. And they literally are a mafia. They're a mafia. They destroy livelihoods, they destroy names, they destroy families. They are. But it was because we gave them that power. So
That's
what do we
true.
do?
But what is the line in the sand that's going to be? You know what was really revelatory? I've talked about this so many times in my channel. My audience is probably like, shut up. But this thing with Molly Tippett's dad was just a tipping point for me because I always thought if immigrants come after our kids, if the transgender community comes out, there's going to be a line in the sand when people start coming for the kids. But watching Molly Tippett's dad like talk about tacos or whatever the fuck after she gets raped and murdered by an illegal immigrant, I'm like, people in America, they are going to allow their children to be sacrificed at the altar of this progressivism, aren't they? And then that's what we're seeing with Desmond, with the transgender community. Like, do you think that the average American is going to draw the line in the sand? I'm really worried about it.
Yeah. And with Molly Tippett's father, that is he decided to virtue signal
Yeah.
instead of pursue justice for his daughter. He could have really pursued some big policy changes with the death of his daughter. And it's very sad. We see that they do it with the tragedy of children, 19 children murdered. Okay, we can weaponize this for ourselves. We can weaponize this to change legislation to take guns away. We have to be willing to do the same. That's the fact of the matter. We can't be willing to or they will continue to take and take and take until there is nothing left. We have to be able to use our own situations in order to weaponize it to take back territory. And we can't be apologetic in that. Like, it was really sickening. That was really sickening, actually. It is, and he could have weaponized his daughter's death to actually make change, to make sure it happened to nobody else. But instead, he decided to virtue signal, to show himself as not racist and all this stuff. And like, we love immigrants and all this, and nothing changed.
And he would have been impervious to criticism too. It's like you had this major tragedy. Even the left, I don't think, would have attacked him.
Yeah.
Like, come on, dude. But I like tacos. It's like, I'm pretty sure white people can figure out how to put like meat and beans in a tortilla too. It's like, what do we really need all these illegal immigrants here?
Yeah, they say, oh, at least we got good food. Well, like, they're going to rape and murder your kids.
Yeah.
Traffic them. And not to mention the fact that the opioid epidemic, the heroin epidemic, I mean, that's all them. Mm-hmm. It's all Mexican cartels. They say, oh, China and the fentanyl. Yeah, but you know what? It's brought in by these Mexican cartels and illegal aliens who come in, actually legal too. Like, we let them in perfectly legally. Like, there's no vetting. There really isn't. We're just letting anybody in. And then they're coming in and living in these communities where they don't assimilate. They elect their own leaders. Their leaders hate us. And so we never get a say. Like, they no longer represent us. But, that's what they did with a multicultural society. They saw that diversity divided us. And that's why they did it. Mm-hmm. And it was effective and it worked. Yep. And, it's just crazy. Yeah, I know. And there's madmen out there. But also, like, I see a lot of girls. I'm going to get probably some heat for this in the cozy chat. But you know what? Like, we as women, like, we're like starting to really step up, because these men are like cowards. Like, look at Lindsey Graham. If it's me versus Lindsey Graham, I'd beat the crap out of him.
Oh, yeah,
like,
yeah.
Like, I'd win because we have these pansy men who are feminine. Like, they're feminine.
It's a huge problem. And in general, I don't think that there should be any women in politics. I don't think I should be doing this job. I don't think women should be able to vote. But like, there are like 3 or 4 people, I can count them on one hand, that I would like to see in politics that are women. And you are definitely one of them. I like your fire. I like your rage. That's a good quality in a politician today. You touched on addiction. I did want to talk about this a little bit. I'm a recovering alcoholic. I spent 6 months in a rehab facility. I don't think I've ever told my channel that, but I did. I've been sober for a long time, and I started my thank you, you too. I started my YouTube channel in sobriety, and part of the reason that I have never really had that much ambition is because I harbor all of this shame. I'm still so shameful. I'm like, what if people find out? Blah, blah, blah. And then hearing you talk about your addiction and saying that you sold drugs illegally and legally, and just talk about how that nearly destroyed your life. It gave me this confidence to be like, I can put myself in the public eye with my past, and people will be forgiving and understanding, because it is it's the plight of so many people, and there's this genetic component. And so I'm just wondering, how did you overcome this element of shame? Because it's so consuming in sobriety, and then allow yourself to be put in a public position where people really seized on that.
Yeah, well, that is something that our enemy uses to keep us bound. So shame is bondage. That's what it is. If you stay in your shame, you don't share your testimony. If you stay in your shame of everything you had done during your dark season, which everybody has had one. You know what I'm saying? Everybody in some way is addicted to something, whether it's gambling, shopping, attention, pride, sex. There's so many things that people are addicted to. There's so many people who have walked through addiction in itself that can relate. It makes you human. I did some really bad things, and I didn't get everything I deserved. I say that all the time because I did. But you know what? I could have stayed quiet. I could have not ran for office, lived a normal life, not shared with the world everything Jesus had done for me. But that wouldn't have done any good. It wouldn't have changed anything. It would have changed nothing. And, because it wasn't me that did it, it's him, I'd be doing God a disservice by not sharing with the world everything he did for me. And there was times, my mug shots everywhere. There's, they bring that up all the time. Oh, you sold this and did this and you said this. And yeah, I did. You know what? That's who I was. And that's who I would have stayed had it not been for Christ. And now I'm able to speak to other people who have walked through this. You know what? Like, we're not like freaks or something. Like, it's not like a lot of people have a lot of issues. Okay. Like, you will not believe how many people have a lot of issues. And you can walk in that shame. You can stay in that shame. You can stay bound, or you can weaponize your testimony and use it to make change. And that is what you can do. And I commend you for overcoming addiction. Alcoholism, it's worse than heroin because you can actually die from it. That's crazy. Like, I didn't know that, but like, it's one of the most addictive, and it's everywhere too. It's
Right.
everywhere. You go to the store, you go grocery shopping, it's right there in your face every single day. So it's actually harder for you. Whereas somebody like me, I'd have to like find some drug dealer somewhere and chase it down and do all this, but it's readily available. So actually recovered alcoholics have it way worse than I do. But I commend you, and I don't want you to stay in your shame because it's not doing us any good. We need you to use it, use your past to push forward and to make change in other ways, for other people.
That really hits me in the heart. Thank you so much for saying that, because I just feel like I haven't reach my potential or even strive for my potential in the public sphere because I still harbor so much shame about this. And that is a big part of recovery is dealing with the sadness of the person that you lost when you were in active addiction. And feeling like you can appreciate the life that you have now, like you deserve it. Because even though I didn't get what I deserved either, I still feel like I don't deserve the wonderful life that I have now, the wonderful husband, the wonderful daughter. And I'm so grateful, but that still is attached to my shame. My gratitude is attached to my shame. So I will take what you said and I will try to apply it to my life. And I know that so many people are in active addiction that listen to us on our channels. I get emails all the time. And for those people, 12-step programs, they do help. It wasn't what did it for me, but their recidivism rate is a lot better than other programs. And I know that you went to a Christian-based rehab facility and it works for you. But I think the real thing is centering yourself in Christ. And that is what has done.
6 months. Which one did you go to?
I went to Betty Ford.
Okay. Now where is that?
It's in Indio or not Indio, the nicer area. It's Palm Springs area.
Oh, nice. Okay. And you went for 6 months.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. See, you can't undo years and years of addiction in a matter of like 6 days or 28 das.
No, it's got to be a while. Yeah.
I was a mountain woman out in the middle of nowhere in Virginia in the mountains at this Christian rehab. And they made us do slave labor, but I did.
It's good for you. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So, but it's a process, and recovery is a process. It's not supposed to be easy. It's not supposed to be easy because if it was easy, everybody would do it.
Right.
You have to work for it. You have to fight for it. And that's why it matters so much to you.
Do you still have temptation?
I don't actually. I don't want to say oh yeah, there's been days. Let me tell you, working in media, there's been days where I'm like, I'm going to end up back on drugs. I said that to myself. I said, good Lord, I'm going to end up back on drugs. But fortunately, I haven't ever had the feeling oh my gosh, I need to go out and cop some
right.
On meth and heroin, all this stuff. I have so much energy as it is now. I don't know, I guess it's I bounced back. I was able to bounce back. But also that's a Christ thing too, because it rebuilt my character where it's not even an option. It's not an option up here anymore where it used to be a good escape. Things are going bad. Things are looking bad. I look around in my country. I work in media, so I'm in the midst of it all the time, seeing all the horrible things that are happening. And it's it looks hopeless. And that would be a great escape. But it's not an option anymore. It's not. I refuse because I am needed. We are needed in this. We are needed in this fight. You are needed as a mother. And that is what you are called to do. And sometimes God, we walked through things and it worked as it equips you for what's next. There's nothing they can really say that's going to hurt my feelings. I've had guns held in my head, some politician calling me a racist. Who cares? I don't.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. None of this is as bad as the depths of the alcoholism. So I get where you're coming from.
Yeah.
In terms of society, I know that Portugal had this model, has this model where they take drug addicts and they help ex-drug addicts from prison, especially, and they help rebuild their social lives. They give them reasons to live. They help them get jobs, and then their recidivism rate is excellent. I mean, I'm not big into prison rehabilitation for violent criminals, but I think that this concept of giving somebody a holistic life in all arenas is what really helps them to get sober. Is that how you see us as a society solving the addiction crisis?
Yeah. Well, I mean, specifically the program I went through, it was 12 months, but it was transitional. So the last few months were building your life outside of it, getting a job, finding out what you're good at, finding your giftings, and launching you in that gifting, you know? And so you're able to live a normal life. You're able to, you know, get married, have children as a woman. Like, we're able to like learn how to function. They teach you how to cook. They like taught us like things like that, like how to maintain and keep a house clean, like stuff like that. You know, yeah, it's important for men. We helped them get really good paying jobs. That we I actually took over the program, so like I was able to like kind of help with that, like help them get jobs, help them get work, line them up with stuff after that. And being able to take care of yourself instead of just throwing you out on the streets and like, well, you're 12 months clean. You have to
You
figure
figure
it
it
out.
out.
Yeah,
Halfway house with a bunch of other drug addicts.
exactly. And you know, like I do support, you know, I like you said, I don't support like the release of violent criminals. I think they should like be put down. But you know, a lot of those people are in there for drugs, and you're not yourself when you're on drugs. So I have a lot of compassion, extra grace and compassion for recovering addicts, because I know you are not yourself when you're addicted to drugs or when you're withdrawing from drugs. You will make poor decisions, and that's not who you are. But once you get that out of your system and you get clean, and then you are also start doing the work to prevent it from ever happening again, like you can succeed. You can get a job, maintain a job, make appointments and keep them. Like that was a big thing with me. I'd make all these appointments and I never kept my appointments. Like I haven't missed an appointment in like forever. And like I have like a schedule and I stick to my schedule. And I
Yep.
never was able to even do that before because my life was so chaotic. And little things like that, having a schedule and keeping to it and a plan, um, really helped me as well. And helping other people that way, that's important. That's equally as important. That's going to do way better than sending you to a methadone clinic at 6 a.m. every morning to keep you like get your daily fix, you know?
Totally,
That's
totally.
great.
And in terms of regret for your past, I think about my daughter all the time, and especially when I'm feeling really regretful about the path that I chose between probably like 17 and 23 and 24. I'm 34 right now. And I think of this alternative future where one thing changes, where I didn't do one of these things that I regret or whatever. And then I'm not led to having this specific child. And that just melts away my regret. Do you feel like that in terms of the way you've helped people in the political sphere?
Hmm. Um, Let me think, because you know, I try like I don't want it to be like false humility or whatever, but I have to stay humble. Like that's the thing. Like if I like start saying, "Oh, I've done all this," or "I've done all this," like I feel like I'd let pride get the best of me. I struggled with pride, so that's something that I want to. I try not to take it that way, but it is good to see that I was able to pull a lot of my friends out of addiction. A lot of my friends were still in Tennessee, still working for the same people, still addicted to drugs. I was able to pull them out and get them in a program, change their lives. Now one of them's getting married. The other one has a great job. Like they're doing really well. And I was able to do that. Like that mattered a lot to me. It does feel good to watch as people like I like it when the boomers get like ferocious and like I inspired them to do it. Like that's a good feeling. The boomers are like, yeah, we got to hang these people. I'm like, all right.
All right, we're getting somewhere.
It's like funny, you know. I like getting people fired up. I like getting people involved. That is a good feeling. That does keep me going, and it is encouraging too. So yeah, it is like it's kind of encouraging to see people doing it. But I like try not to say it's like me, because it's like I don't know. I'd like to think I inspire people, but it's just because where I was, like how bad it was. Nobody really truly knows how bad it was and how it really would have been continued to be bad had it not been for Jesus Christ.
Yep, that's definitely true. Well, you've been a huge inspiration to me, and I really thank you for that. I just haven't seen anybody tell their story in the way that you have. I know that there are a lot of recovering drug addicts and alcoholics within our our sphere, but like nobody talks about it. Nobody talks about their struggles because it gives the left some of our weaknesses so that they can seize on them. And I think people are just too fragile. But when you've gone through what you've gone through, what I've gone through, it does strengthen you to their criticisms. It's like, well, you're gonna call me an alcoholic. I am an alcoholic. So like what's the big deal here?
Right. Well, look at like Hunter Biden, for example. That was something they
Right.
tried to keep secret.
Yep.
Blew up in their faces. Now they have nothing. They can't hold anything against me because it's all out there. Yeah,
That's true.
I worked
Yeah.
for these people. Yeah, I sold drugs for these people. This is what I sold. Yes, I fell asleep at the steering wheel. Same stop sign twice, was arrested for DUI. You know, like all these things. Yes, I got a manufacturing charge. Yes, I have this. Like, but it's like they can't hold it against you because I didn't keep it a secret. Like I'm like,
Right.
yeah, this happened. This is where I was. Like I know how to rebuild. Like I know how to come back from this, and I can help you come back from this too. I can't speak to alcoholics. You can. You know what I'm saying? I'm like mostly good with like junkies and heroin addicts and stuff like that. But like, I can't, like, I don't know what it's like to walk through a grocery store and have my drug of choice right there sitting there next to the bread. I don't know what that's like, but you can speak to that. So that's what, like, that's good. And I want to encourage you to weaponize what you know, what you learned, and how good your life is to help other people live the same life.
That's true, and I really thank you for that. That means a lot to me. I'm also really blessed that I just don't have temptation anymore. I think it's probably because of the responsibilities that I have in my life. And you're right, it's just not an option. It's just not an option. I just can't do it. I have a kid. Like I can't go down this road again. I don't have the energy to rebuild my life in the way that I had before.
Right. And we both know like it's not like one like, oh, I'll just like take this sip and it'll go like next week I'll be fine. No, it like or I can take this hit of meth. Like just
casual meth use is fine.
Smoke this meth pipe. No. Like it's like if you open that door, it doesn't shut.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
And yep. It'll cost you your family, your house, your husband, everything.
Your life.
Yep. Cost you everything.
Philip Seymour Hoffman had when he relapsed, he had one glass of champagne at like a post Oscars party, and within a week he was intravenously using heroin, and then he died. Yeah. So that's just how it goes. I hear this from people that aren't drug addicts or alcoholics all the time. Like even my good friends, they're like, you can't just have one drink. Like, listen, I've never in my life just had one drink. The first time I drank, I blacked out and was like barfing all over myself. I woke up and I was like, that was awesome. Awesome. I'm not wired like other people. There is no one drink. So that's something that I wish, people would understand about alcoholics and drug addicts. Anyway, I know you talked a little bit about what you've done in the last year. What are your future plans? If you could talk a little bit more about your new media corporation, I think that would be a great note to end on.
Yeah, for sure. So we started a media company, a Christian media company, creating Christian content and taking back the narrative from the globalist. I'll stick with the word.
You did it.
Globalist. We'll stick with the word globalist. I'm taking the narrative back from the globalists who currently run the media right now. And you know what? Last month, the Stu Peters show hit 20 million views. That's Sean Hannity numbers. We're hitting Sean Hannity numbers, and we're doing it by talking about things that matter. And it's been really great. It's been a great ride, and we're just getting started. And we did it with like a shoestring budget. Like they like try to make it feel like you can't do anything unless you have this huge budget. No, there's people looking for advertising, like to purchase advertising on shows. So if you have an audience and you have something to say, like there are people that are willing to partner with you and advertise with you. So there is a way to fund a conservative Christian true grassroots movement. There's ways to fund, a conservative, and also if you have sponsors, then you have somebody that you like watching, help them out, buy a sponsorship or buy a product, buy prepper food or whatever you're selling. Are you selling anything?
No, but I probably should be because I'm not making any money. So
yeah. Or have a gift and go, support that person because they're trying to take back the narrative and we are succeeding. I think we're winning. I think we're taking back ground. I think we're winning. And I think that this is just the beginning and we need more uncompromising content creators in this movement. We're very funny about who we work with too. I don't want any normie. I mostly take the outcasts, people that have been fired from Arsenal or the establishment media or whatever. And we bring them in and then, we don't have $1 million to give them up front, but I figure out a way, we make it work. Yep. And, it's been really good. We hired a bunch of young people And I like it. Like, we have young people, we teach them trades, we teach them how to, work a camera, produce a show. Okay, this is what is looking like. This is what is a hot topic right now. Let's talk about this. Like that kind of thing, kind of training them up on how. And I realized something. I'd rather have somebody with experience rather than somebody who has like 4 years of schooling. I'll tell
Mhm.
you what, like, I have homeschoolers that work for me. Brilliant, smartest people ever. Picked it up like that. Picked it up quicker than somebody with a 5-year degree, like in
Mhm.
like journalism. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? It just took 3 days to teach them. Like
Yep.
homeschoolers are like superhuman. Like no wonder they want to get rid of it. Like I kid you not. So that kind of thing. So we've been doing that. We've been taking back the narrative. Continue. If you guys are interested in watching some of our shows, we're on the Stu Peters Network, crosstalknews.com, stupeters.com, some of our shows. And, let's just keep pushing and fighting and supporting each other as we fight to take back the narrative and take back everything they have stolen from us, because they
Yep.
will not win. Never let the terrorists win. And we have a terrorist government.
And be merciless in your retribution. You heard it here. This is
Never
Lauren
forget.
Witzke. She does not mince words. All of her links are below. And thank you so much for joining me. It was such a pleasure to talk to you.
Yes. Thank you.
Bye bye.